Have you ever stopped to consider that our everyday reality might be far darker than we dare admit? Perhaps you sense it, a hidden weight behind every war, every pandemic, every act of cruelty that cannot be easily brushed off as mere misfortune. What if our world is not simply flawed, but something closer to a prison or a nightmare masquerading as ordinary life? Forget the comforting stories about testing grounds and moral lessons. In this view, we're not on a playground under the watchful eye of a benevolent creator. We are prisoners in a spiritual system fueled by suffering, what some have called hell on earth. Let's first question the mainstream narrative that a good God orchestrated this realm for our betterment. Consider the scope of misery. Centuries of war claiming millions of lives, global economies propped up by exploitation, natural disasters obliterating entire communities, and diseases ravaging every generation. These miseries are not exceptions to the rule. They have shaped human experience from the start. Does that look like a carefully arranged cosmic plan to help us grow, or a labyrinth built to keep us in perpetual anguish? Many ancient traditions offer a radically different story than what's typically taught. Gnostic teachings, for instance, speak of a powerful but false god known as the Demiurge, a cosmic tyrant who designed this universe as a trap for divine souls. Rather than viewing suffering as redemptive, these accounts suggest the material realm was deliberately constructed to foster pain, confusion, and fear. The question then becomes, are we praising this tyrant's domain, believing it to be a divinely ordained paradise, or are we ready to see the bars of our prison? History provides endless evidence of systematic torment. Consider the last century alone. More than 100 million people killed in wars, entire populations living under oppressive regimes, and billions of souls tethered to poverty. If a mere fraction of this horror doesn't shake our illusions, we might ask ourselves if we've been manipulated by narratives that glorify resilience or tests of character. It isn't that we can't find examples of courage or compassion. Human beings sometimes display brilliance in dire circumstances, but that the underlying architecture seems rigged to produce maximum despair and feed on it. Now, let's talk about time, one of the most effective instruments of suffering. Everyone is enslaved to time, compelled to watch everything they love decay. Each passing day is a countdown, a relentless diminishment of our health, our relationships, and our sense of possibility. People often speak of time as a healer, but it's equally a destroyer, ensuring we can never fully hold on to the fleeting joys we stumble upon. In a cosmic setup where time consistently robs us, can we really claim it's overseen by benevolent design? Then there is the cycle of repeated failure we witness across history. No matter how technology progresses or how many well-intentioned revolutions occur, the same patterns of exploitation and inequality reappear. War and famine get new names, new faces, but the same core tragedy persists. Even if we reshape politics, powerful new elites tend to rise up and replicate old abuses. Rather than an upward arc of moral progress, it feels more like an endless hamster wheel. Is that the sign of a world managed for our growth, or a carefully devised loop to keep us subdued? Looking closer at ancient spiritual teachings, we discover repeated references to a fall of humanity. Traditional Christianity attributes it to original sin in Eden, but Gnostic viewpoints go further, describing an event in which a tyrannical force, often labeled the Demiurge, bound human souls to a material prison. In these texts, Adam and Eve's story is not about moral failing alone. It's about a moment of cosmic deception that locked us into a cycle of birth, suffering, and death. Meanwhile, other religions and myths across continents echo the motif of a world corrupted or ruled by malevolent powers. The Sumerian gods who enslaved mortals, the Greek deities who toyed with human fate, and Eastern ideas of endless rebirth all point to a sorrow-laden reality, seldom bearing resemblance to a wholesome home created for our flourishing. One of the most disturbing aspects of these accounts is that suffering itself isn't random. It can be an energy source, some say food, for the powers controlling this realm. In the Gnostic system, various archons or lesser cosmic rulers allegedly feed off the anguish and ignorance of humankind. A similar notion appears in other esoteric traditions, describing parasitic forces that thrive on negative energies. Whether one interprets these ideas literally or symbolically, they mirror the real-world phenomenon where large industries flourish on the back of human misery, profiting from war, disease, and social strife. At the very least, these parallels remind us that there is a vested interest in perpetuating collective pain. Reincarnation also surfaces as part of this cosmic snare, especially in the Gnostic or Eastern sense. While mainstream culture might romanticize reincarnation as a hopeful second chance, some esoteric writings see it as a ceaseless recycling process. Each new life is effectively a reboot, complete with memory erasure, ensuring we can't truly leverage past lessons to escape. It's akin to being thrown into a maze again and again, never quite recalling the route that didn't work last time. In that model, real liberation or enlightenment is hard to achieve, given the system is stacked against us. If there were a God truly championing our freedom, would such a burdensome loop exist in the first place? Meanwhile, we find references to illusions that keep us docile, philosophical illusions, religious illusions, consumer illusions, and more. Consumerism spurs us to accumulate possessions, hoping for fleeting happiness. Nationalism persuades us to fight each other rather than noticing the shadowy structures subjugating everyone. Organized religion, in some manifestations, instructs us to accept suffering as a virtue, postponing joy and justice to an afterlife that might be a carrot on a stick. What if these illusions, like time, are meticulously crafted gears of the cosmic machine? It's not just that we suffer individually. The entire system fosters endless conflict. Wars break out ceaselessly, often based on manipulated fear or outright lies. Racism, sexism, and class divisions stoke hatred and aggression. Even attempts at remedying injustices frequently spawn new injustices, as corruption slithers in. The cyclical nature of oppression suggests a deeper script at play, one that capitalizes on the universal brokenness so that even our best efforts get co-opted or twisted. This doesn't happen by accident or because humanity simply can't do better. It happens because the system, if viewed through a Gnostic lens, is designed to yield perpetual strife. An example: modern media saturates us with violence and negativity, ensuring our emotional states remain in flux. The fear, anger, and helplessness we feel might serve as emotional fuel for the powers that be. So while we scroll through horrifying headlines or watch controversies blow up on social media, we're kept on a roller coaster of despair, never calm enough to question the framework or find genuine spiritual solutions. If we did find lasting peace or clarity, the system's hold might weaken. Yet some might ask, where is hope, then? If this is indeed a prison, are we doomed to remain in chains? Gnostic texts and many mystical teachings hold out a possibility, a path of gnosis or deeper spiritual knowledge, awakening the divine spark within that the demiurge can't fully extinguish. This might take the form of intense inner discipline, prayerful union with the true God beyond the false one, or a radical shift in consciousness. But the route is perilous, requiring us to unlearn everything the system taught us, from conventional morality to the illusions of material success. This is not an easy road, and often those who try to walk it face ridicule, isolation, or violent opposition. We see historical examples. Visionaries, mystics, or prophets who confronted the illusions of their day, only to be silenced or executed. They threatened the system not with swords but with truth. Their legacy, to those receptive, is a roadmap for resisting the trap. However, the system quickly adapts, co-opting some of their teachings or distorting them into new forms of control. Hence, mainstream religion sometimes becomes the very cage the prophets wanted to unlock. Some modern seekers interpret these revelations to mean we must break free from external institutions, focusing on a direct, personal relationship with the divine or a quest for higher consciousness. They view prayer, meditation, or introspection as ways to tear off the veil. Others advocate communal efforts to build just societies, though they caution that without a fundamental spiritual shift, we risk replacing one oppressive structure with another. Throughout all this, time looms in the background, urging us, hurry, hurry, or you'll miss your chance. But ironically, it's that same urgency that can keep us from pausing to reflect deeply on the system's illusions. Are we too busy surviving, paying bills, chasing fleeting pleasures, to realize the bars of our cage? In conclusion, this world may indeed be more akin to a carefully orchestrated hell than a stepping stone to heaven. Rather than a divine playground, it operates as a prison where suffering is not an unfortunate glitch, but a main feature. The illusions, be they cultural, social, or religious, prevent the masses from confronting the dire reality. Gnostic teachings about the demiurge and archons, echoing other traditions' warnings about cosmic oppression, remind us that what passes for normal life might actually be the sum total of illusions stacked to keep us enslaved. If you find this perspective unsettling, that's precisely the point. An awakening does not arrive through cozy reassurances. It comes through shaking your foundations, recognizing the possibility that Earth is indeed something akin to hell, a nightmare disguised as life, is an invitation to look deeper into whichever spiritual path might offer freedom. And yet, the message isn't wholly despairing. Even if the system is rigged, hope emerges from the possibility of knowledge, gnosis, or awakened insight. Once illusions are exposed, they lose some of their power. The question is, will we muster the courage to break our mental chains, reject the illusions, and seek that higher truth? The journey is yours to undertake. The cost is high, but the alternative is staying confined within an endless cycle of torment. True liberation requires understanding that the bars of our prison are illusions we no longer choose to believe. If you're ready to question what you've always assumed about reality, then perhaps this conversation has served its purpose, lighting a small spark in the darkness. Thank you for listening, and may your search for truth lead you to whatever genuine freedom still exists beyond this realm's illusions.